Hey everybody, welcome to Life, Liberty, and Truth podcast. Before we start, we want to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors here. If you can't tell, we got some new audio equipment, and it's really going to help improve the sound quality of the podcast. It's really kind of bringing us to the next level of podcasting. So we couldn't do it without you guys, all those who help us to raise money and just listen and encourage us. Big shout out to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the listeners that come and support us. You know, it really means a lot. We love doing this, Christian and I. We like just being able to talk, and, you know, we may sound corny at times, but I mean, that's what it's about. We like to spread our opinions, and if we're going to do that in a weird kind of corny way, then that's cool. Like, that's just how we are. So, yeah, thank you for those who follow us on our Instagram. If you haven't, go check it out right now. But, yeah, thank you for all those people that, you know, have been huge on the support and all the love. So thank you.
With that said, we're going to move into our topic. As the election starts to move closer, one of the things that we want to talk about today is the 2020 upcoming election and the different ways that this is going to influence America and how it's affecting us right now and as far as candidates, and just talk about maybe different policies. So to start, let's start with Trump and his policies as far as the wall, unemployment, his dealings with China, that kind of stuff. Even COVID a little bit, if you want to start on that.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start on that. So, yeah, I mean, it's getting closer, everyone. November 3rd is, you know, coming our way. And, you know, I encourage everyone to go vote. But, yeah, like, you have that duty as a U.S. citizen to go vote. I know a lot of people probably don't want to, but please, you know, suggest that you do. At least vote for someone, because that's your duty as an American citizen, to vote for your leaders, you know. But that being said, I want to just talk about some of the good things that Trump's done, you know, because on the, you know, television or news outlets, sometimes he gets a lot of flack for things that he says, and he does say things a little bluntly, but that's just who he is. Yeah, just a little blunt. But that's who he is. That's his personality. He likes being that way. You know, that's just how you are. He's a very dominant, like, individual, so that's how he is. He's going to be abrupt when he talks to someone. And so the big thing that I want to hit on is the economy. I mean, you know, we've said it before, but it's true. Like, he has created one of the most healthiest economies that the United States has ever had. And that's, I mean, you can't even debate that because it's true, right? I mean, you can go look up the statistics on that yourself. But yeah, Trump's economy over the last few years, and I mean, even a little after, you know, COVID here, I mean, we're not through it, but, you know, we've seen the rise of the economy coming back. We've seen the recovery, which is very good to see, and it's very important. So Trump knows what he's doing with the economy, and America's healthy. And so that's what we want as American citizens, and I think we should support someone that definitely sees the economy as a very important aspect of America. Another thing is a lot of people don't like it, but he's kind of breaking ties with China a little bit. He wants to get out of there. Why? Because China just owns us, because we get a lot of imports from them. We get like many countries around the world get imports from them. But there's obviously other various issues surrounding that. But the thing that I want to hit on is the reason why Trump is getting out of there is because it's been hurting America's economy. I mean, that's why we've been in so much debt. We're still in debt, but you know, Trump's, you know, trying to again make our money system and the United States healthier. Again, with the wall, if you didn't hear our borders episode, I suggest you go listen to that and why having a wall is important, right? Especially for a country like America. But that's one of Trump's policies from the very beginning when he was elected in 2016. Is he wanted to build a wall, not for, you know, racial inequality or these kinds of things, but to protect American citizens. You want a leader that is striving to protect those who live here in America, and I think that's what you want in a leader. And so, again, Trump has just done a lot of great things for the economy. What he just did a peace deal in the Middle East. I mean, he's doing a lot of it.
He did
two.
What is the potential to be 10?
I have no idea.
They have a number of other states that they're trying to convince to get in on it also. I wanted to say the overall number that they're trying to get in or have potential is another 8 states in the Middle East.
Yeah, again, that's just crazy. Is we all know how crazy the Middle East is. It's literally a war zone. But it's amazing to see that Trump, a lot of people have said that Trump doesn't care about other countries. Well, if he didn't care about other countries, why is he trying to help make peace deals with these other, states in the Middle East? If he didn't care, then why would he waste his time doing that? And, again, yeah, it has stuff to do with America, but at the same time, he wants these other countries to be peaceful. That's the entire, motive behind his actions here, is he wants the Middle East to become peaceful and not be so war-driven as it has been the last few decades. I mean, it's been like that for a very long time. And so there's a lot of tension over there as well. And I think Trump's doing a great job of trying to regulate what's going on. Shoot, he got rid of ISIS. He basically destroyed that entire program. I know that's another organization. There you go. I mean, he annihilated, he just completely dismantled ISIS. And you don't hear much of it anymore. I haven't seen any headlines lately about ISIS in the last, year? And
maybe even longer than that.
Maybe even longer. I mean, and it's not that there may not be something, happening under the radar, but you can clearly see that Trump has really been doing his job in office. And so, yeah, those are the points that I want to make, is why Trump has been such a great president. And regardless of your, opinions of that, those are the facts. He's done those things. So you can take it as it is, how you want to believe it, but that's what he's been doing in America. And so, yeah, you want to go ahead, Christian?
Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about more is, we support Trump. We are Trump supporters, but we do like his policies. But for those who might not be fond of Trump, there's a reason to vote for him. We don't vote for Trump because we love him as a person, but we think that his policies are good. And we don't want to be known as those people that you're just these diehard Trump supporters, we don't want to be lumped in with just anyone who's a diehard Trump supporter. But there's more reasons to vote for Trump other than just his policies, even though his policies are more pro-American than Biden would be. But the reason that we vote for Trump is because look at what the Democratic Party has done, and look at what you're competing against. You're competing against Joe Biden. You're competing against a person and a party who essentially hates America. Now, I don't want to make a generalized statement, but a lot of Democrats do hate America. And so as far as socialism goes, you see these riots, they hate America. And it might not be a party stance, but a lot of these people that are associated with the party hate America. And so when you're thinking about voting for Biden, you're essentially putting a lot of these people, giving them opportunities to come into power. Not only by voting for Trump, are his policies better for America, but the Democratic Party is just so anti-America. And so I want to point out what Trump said. Trump said in his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention, he said, "How can you support a party that spends so much time bashing America?" And he didn't say it exactly like that. And that's essentially what you're voting for. Do you want a pro-American party or an anti-American party? And even if you don't like the way that Trump deals with things, if you don't like the way how he talks, how he carries himself, Trump is still the more pro-American option. And so if you're voting based off of what is better for America and Americans and the pro-American way, Trump is the way to go. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I support him, not just his policies, but just how he loves America, how he loves our military, how he loves our economy, how he loves everything about
our
this
law
country.
Enforcement.
Yeah. And it's important to vote for Trump even if you don't support all of his policies, because he's not going to defund the police. He's pro-military. He's pro-God. And, at the Democratic National Convention, they took under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. And so that's my point on why I support Trump and why you should definitely consider supporting Trump, even if you don't consider yourself a Trump supporter, even if you don't consider yourself a Republican. But this isn't a Republican Democrat issue. This is an American issue. This is America versus no America.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I want to move into Biden and kind of his, I don't want to just talk about his flaws. I want to kind of talk about things that he does good, even though I don't see there are a lot of good things about him. And so let's move into that.
So yeah, here's the thing. Like, we've talked about Trump's policies, right? And Biden, like, have you heard a policy that he has? Like, a legitimate policy. We're planning on doing this. We're planning on doing this. Like, in aspects of America as a whole. Like, what we're going to do with our military. What we're going to do with this. What we're going to do. I mean, I'm sure there's some form of layout, but there's not a official policy like Trump had.
There are a couple. I can't really think of, like, a specific one off the top of my head. I know that there are a couple, and I know, but what I do know is that they're kind of more broadish. It's not like, you know, we're gonna build a wall to stop illegal immigration. I haven't heard anything like that. Like, how he's gonna do it. You know, I've heard him say, "Oh, we need to give Medicare to all," that kind of stuff.
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, basically Bernie Sanders, and the fact that he also has put a position on where he stands with firearms and guns, which is controversial because he has said that he's pro-gun, and then he goes and says he's anti-gun at one point. Or not anti-gun, but, you know, anti-AR. He's
anti-gun, let's just be real.
Yeah. And so a lot of his positions have been changing as far as, I mean, pretty much everything that he's said, he's changed and gone back at one point or another, depending on who's interviewing him.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you can even go back, like, there wasn't a whole lot that he accomplished even as a politician earlier, like, when he was younger. I mean, he's been in Congress for 47 years. 47 years.
Yeah, that's...
You would think if you were in Congress for 47 years, you'd be known for something, like, really great that you did to help America. And I'm not saying he didn't do anything, but I'm saying, you know, certain legislation that's passed, right, that you made to change America, to make it better for all people of life. He hasn't done much, is what I'm, you know, going at here. And so that's one thing that's just kind of weird is, like, if you're in Congress for 47 years, I would expect someone to at least do something, like, really good for America, and I just haven't seen that.
I think he's one of those stereotypical lifetime politicians that he does whatever his constituents want, and he just does whatever he can to get reelected. And so one of the issues or the things that come out to me is, doesn't he come out now and he said he's pro LGBTQ, right? Well,
oh yeah, Biden.
Yeah, Biden's pro LGBTQ right now. But you can go back interviews in the 90s even, maybe even early 2000s, I don't remember. And he specifically says that marriage is between a man and a woman. We agree with that, but now he's going and changing his policies based on what's going to get him elected. And so you're going to vote someone in who has 47 years of in the Senate, who has really done nothing notable in his career, and he didn't do anything in his 47 years. What makes you think that he's going to all of a sudden do all this change and bring all this good as president?
Right. And so you got to think about those kinds of things as well. Yeah, the thing with being anti-gun, like, how could you be anti-gun in America? I mean, he sided with Beto O'Rourke. You know, you're going to help me get rid of all these AR-14s. You remember that?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's one of those things, like, why are you trying to take guns away from Americans when they have every right to own a gun?
Yeah.
And I understand having regulations on some things, right? Certain guns, certain people should have certain regulations on the guns that they can own, right?
There are common sense regulations as far as, you know, someone who has committed murder should not have a gun, or someone,
felony, yeah,
or felony, if you've committed a felony, or as far as like if you've committed domestic violence or if you've threatened to shoot somebody, then yeah, you probably shouldn't have a gun. But you can't take away guns from every law-abiding citizen because of the actions of a few.
Yeah, I see that as a huge flaw in his, and again, I don't think it's his policy. I think he's taking from other people's policies that he was running against to be the Democratic nominee. I mean, now you look at what he's saying now, it almost mirrors what Bernie Sanders was saying. And now he has Kamala Harris as his vice president, so he's obviously taking policies from her ideas, right? Or taking from her ideas and putting in his policies as well. It's just, he's been known for plagiarizing. He hasn't been very original at all. And so that's the thing is, my main concern is I think he's being used as a puppet to get into that power, right, of the White House, and then everyone else below him run it for him.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you can get him in the White House, you can control basically. I mean, they're controlling him right now with what he's saying.
Let's touch more on that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But I want to keep talking about number one, how he can barely talk.
Yeah.
And number two, kind of about his health issues. And number three, about how he has really had no rallies. He hasn't really come out into public much. His political presence has been almost nothing. And so I want to talk about those three things.
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as his ability to not speak and misinterpret facts or misquote facts, that's insane. Why are we allowing someone who can barely read off of a teleprompter? Why are we allowing him to run to be commander-in-chief and the leader of our country? That's absurd. You know, how are we going... The guy literally the other day said that 200 million people in the United States has died of COVID. That's what he said. And he didn't even catch himself or try and correct himself.
Yeah, it's one thing to, have a gaffe here and there, right? That's one thing. But he's been having these for the last year. Since even in the debates, he's been having these. So you got to... when it's a pattern like this, you should be concerned. It's one thing. Trump has it. He says stuff that he, didn't mean to say, but it was interpreted a different way. There's those kinds of things, right? But, I mean, Joe Biden has had these problems for a very long time.
Well, and even just his sentences, he'll get talking on one thing, and you'll have no idea what he's saying.
Yeah.
Like, I think of the memes, and it says, like, put in a few words and then hit autocorrect and see if it comes out to a Joe Biden sentence.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, literally, that's what his sentences are. I've listened to a number of things that he said, and you just scratch your head and you're like, what is going through his mind right now? What is he trying to say? What is he actually saying? And just what is wrong with him?
Yeah, and it's, again, we're not trying to just bash this man, okay? We're just giving you the facts here. Like, obviously, you know where we stand. But, like, as an American citizen, you should be concerned with what's at stake here. Do you want someone in the White House that can barely talk, that has to read off a teleprompter every time he speaks, and even then messes it up?
Yeah.
I mean, how is he going to make these certain deals? How is he going to be smart with the military? Again, that's what I'm saying is he's just a puppet. He's not going to be the one doing anything. It's going to be everyone else below him making these policies, right? He's just the puppet of, he's that leverage, basically, of the American people to get the Democrats in the White House. But another thing, real quickly, they were saying people aren't afraid of Joe Biden. Like, he's harmless. People, like, he's harmless to America, and really because, he doesn't have really dangerous policies in the first place. The only reason why he looks so crazy is because he's taken policies from these crazy leftist nominees or other candidates that were in the debates. He's taken from their policies, and so you can see it in what he's saying, that he's clearly taken their ideas. And I'm not saying like taking them, but other people have basically taken those ideas and put those for Joe Biden to say, basically. And so that's just all I'm trying to get at there is Joe Biden himself is harmless to America, but the motives and the ideas and the mindset behind these policies that aren't his are dangerous. And that's what you got to be careful about.
Yeah, I think everyone could pretty much agree that his health issues are really a problem right now, and that his deterioration of his health is kind of a big deal. I've seen clips of him not being able to remember where he's at, and I think his health issues are a legitimate concern. And what I think is going to happen is that there's definitely a plan here for the Democrats to get him elected, and they're going to control him in some way. And so let's talk about that plan a little bit. I've heard multiple things of whether he'll just stay in office and just have basically Harris run the campaign, or even Pelosi's basically going to be president and just going to use him as a puppet. I've heard that he might actually die, like air quote die, and then Kamala Harris is going to take over. And then I've just heard that he's just going to step down and Kamala Harris is going to take over.
And I think they finally see him unfit.
Yeah, and he'll deem himself unfit,
right,
and he'll step down. And so one of these three scenarios I definitely see as possible, especially with these new quotes coming out of Biden and Kamala both saying that it's the Harris administration. Yeah. Literally, they don't say Biden-Harris administration. They say the Harris administration.
With Biden.
Yeah, and then they make something about it later, and they'll say, oh, and the Biden and Harris administration. But with those quotes coming out, I think that there's definitely a huge possibility that Joe Biden will get elected, and something will happen where Harris will probably take over. Now, I'm not going to make any assumptions of what I think will happen. I really don't know. But I think those are all very possible outcomes. And there was a study done. I don't remember exactly what the study was, but it was like the amount of Democrats that think that Biden will serve his full term, and it was like 80% believed that he wouldn't even serve his full 4 years.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're electing. In this case, you're not just electing crazy old Joe Biden to get rid of Trump. You have to think of Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris she's a really bad candidate too,
She's done a lot of bad things.
Yeah, if you support defunding the police, do not vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Kamala Harris is literally a police officer who has put hundreds of, is it thousands even?
Many.
Yeah, we'll just say many people in jail for marijuana possession and marijuana-related crimes. That's now legal, and she's bragged about it. And wasn't she caught smoking pot?
Oh yeah, that was one of the big things in the debates that people went at her for. And so, yeah, it's one thing. Again, there's things that happen that you do, that you make mistakes, and I understand that, but it's one thing when you do these things like intentionally.
Well, and she was bragging about it.
Well, right,
it's
yeah.
not like she did it and then was like, oh yeah, I made a mistake. She was literally bragging about it.
Yeah. Here, one of the big policies that I see that Democrats have is Trump is bad. Trump is racist. We need Trump out of the office. They don't have anything to back up their claims. And so their mind is to just convince you that Trump is a bad person, that he's racist, that he doesn't like America, that he doesn't care about American citizens. And again, here's a huge thing, this COVID thing. There's people that have died, and we know, numbers. We talked about it before in previous episodes when we talked about COVID. But, the CDC, brought down the numbers, like, basically said that, yeah, numbers weren't completely accurate. Well, let's just say they were accurate anyway, right? They're using these numbers, right, to say that Trump is a bad person when, how are you going to control a virus? He's done everything that he possibly could. They were saying that he didn't have very many ventilators. Well, no, he had plenty of ventilators. There is plenty of masks. There's plenty of PPE for different states.
Real quick, as far as ventilators go, the reason that we didn't have enough ventilators was because of the Obama administration and Joe Biden.
Yeah.
They're the reason that we didn't have ventilators.
Those kinds of health equipment,
yeah,
right?
It was their fault.
And in 2 months, everyone had ventilators. Even other countries had ventilators. We gave millions, thousands. I'm gonna say thousands, because I don't know the exact number if it went over millions, but I know it's definitely in the high thousands. We gave a lot of ventilators to other foreign countries for aid, and so Trump did that. I mean, he basically cut off travel from China from the very beginning, and then everyone called him xenophobic, right, for doing that.
And then
Joe Biden called him xenophobic.
Yeah, then Biden comes out and says, "Oh, I would have shut down everything a week earlier, and if that would have happened, then I would have saved lives." But you're literally just sitting there criticizing about shutting down transportation, and then now you come and say, "Oh, well, I would have shut everything down earlier."
Yeah, and again, how you can't control a virus. It's a virus. It's not. I mean, you can but Trump's done everything in his power that he possibly could. Ventilators. He's done He's encouraging people to wear masks, even when we know that it probably doesn't help. But he's saying that because he needs to say that. Because if he doesn't say that, then everyone's going to say he's a hate monger and hates all Americans. So he has to say those kinds of things. And, even if he doesn't agree with it, I don't know if he agrees with always wearing a mask. I don't think he does. But, he has to say those kinds of things. And so you can't just take these numbers, right, from COVID and then say that Trump's an awful president for how many people have died, when it's been proven that those numbers have actually been falsified. That's just my thing. Is the Democrat policy here is Trump's bad, get him out. We need to beat Trump. Even the debates, we need to beat Trump.
Yeah,
that's all they had.
And like we were talking about earlier, I mean, when you're considering who to vote for, you can't just vote, "Oh, I'm not going to vote for Trump," because that's basically what Joe Biden is running on right now. Is not so much his policy, but as much as it's just literally if he had a slogan, it'd be "Let's beat Trump." That should be his official slogan, is "Let's beat Trump. Don't reelect Trump." If that's why you're voting for Biden, then you have a serious mistake. Because like I said earlier about bringing Kamala Harris, the chances of Joe Biden actually finishing out his 4 years, his term, very small. And so now you have to consider who you're going to vote for. Is Kamala Harris someone you're going to vote for? And if you are a person who supports defunding the police, then you have no business voting for Joe Biden, because Kamala Harris is, like I said, literally a police officer who bragged about arresting criminals for smoking pot while she smokes pot. And so you have to be, you don't have to, but there's a consistency there that you have to have as far as who you're going to vote for. And if you don't support Trump, then you need to be aware of what you're voting for and the consequences of your actions, because you can't just vote for somebody just because you don't like the other candidate. Trump has his imperfections, but ultimately, we're kind of voting for who's going to be best for the country. And
go ahead.
If you honestly think that Joe Biden is going to be best for the country, then I think you should really examine your beliefs and your values.
Yeah, reconsider that, because it's just, a lot of people focus on the fact that, Trump's done these things in the past and he's bad, and they try to make him seem like this awful individual, which, again, like Christian said, Trump's not perfect. No one's perfect. So, you can't just keep hitting on that point where, Trump's this awful dude, right? Well, you have to see through this person here, okay? Forget who the president is. Forget who Trump is. Forget all that. It's a person in office doing these policies. Now, do you agree with these policies? Again, the president is not Trump, okay? It's just this person. If this person is doing these things in the White House, making the economy healthy, lowest unemployment rates, including black unemployment rates, basically is cutting off ties with China so that we don't have to deal with that kind of burden anymore as a country, because it's hurt us economically. So, and the wall, there's obviously controversy over that, but that's to protect Americans, right? So forget that it's Trump in the office. Think about the policies that this person is trying to do. all the things that he has done and the things that he will continue to do if he is president still. You just have to think about those things. Forget about the person. You know, you can even do that in the Joe Biden aspect. It's not Joe Biden, but it's a person that can't talk. He hasn't done anything, when he was a politician in Congress. He hasn't done these things. So just think about those kinds of things when you are thinking about who you're going to vote. They're like, oh, well, I hate Donald Trump, so I'm voting for Joe Biden instead. Well, you can't go off of that. So you're going off your personal hatred of someone and voting for the other person, which, that happens a lot. But what I tend to focus on is the policies of the person. I mean, I've in county or state voting ballots, I've voted Democrat on some of them because they had better policies than the Republican, right? Like, I read over, their policies, and there were some policies that I liked from the Democrat, nominee that I like more than the Republican, and I identify as a Republican, so it's just one of those things, like
you identify as a Republican.
Yeah, as a Republican voter.
And that sounds like some kind of weird new.
I know
gender.
It is weird.
I identify as Republican.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably see it that way, but I support the Republican Party is what I could say. So even though I support them, like, I still voted for Democrat candidates. So it's just one of those things, like, pay attention to the policies that these people are talking about, that they want to push, and the agendas that they want to push. So that's just one thing that you got to think about with this upcoming election. So
yeah, and one of the last things we should talk about is something that's very big in controversy right now in this election is mail-in voting. And so let's kind of hit on that. Mail-in voting and voter fraud. Before we start, for anyone who thinks that mail-in voting might not be a big deal, I found an article right here on Real Clear Politics titled 28 million mail-in ballots went missing in the last 4 elections. Between 2012 and 2018, 28.3 million mail-in ballots remain unaccounted for, according to data from the Federal Election Assistance Commission. The missing ballots amount to nearly 1 in 5 of all absentee ballots and ballots mailed in voters residing in states that do elections exclusively by mail. When we vote in by mail, that's an incredible increase in voter fraud right there. And for people that don't think that voter fraud is really a big deal, like 28 million in the past 4 elections is insane. That's a lot of votes. That could change the outcome of the election. And so the problem with mail-in voting is that, for one, a carrier can tamper with the ballot itself if he doesn't like what he sees, even though it is illegal. But even just the fact that, look at the article, the scenario that happened where one of the guy's cats that had been dead for 10 years got a ballot. Or one person got, I think, like 30 ballots to their home because of all the residents that had lived there previously in their names. And I think one person even got a number of ballots in his own name. And so that's the kind of stuff that you're dealing with. And voter fraud is cheating. And everyone knows cheating is something that you're going to have to deal with. People cheat all the time. There is always going to be cheating in politics. There's always going to be cheating in everyday life. Video games, board games, sports. Everyone's going to cheat at some point. There's always going to be cheating. You're not going to get away from cheating in this election or in any election, but you can do your best to limit it as much as possible.
Right.
People cheat themselves all the time. If someone says, "Oh, well, cheating, I never cheat." You cheat yourself all the time. Ever heard of a cheat meal? Or ever gone for a run and you're gonna run a mile and you only end up running like half a mile? That's cheating. Even if you're not cheating another person, you still cheat.
Right.
People cheat all the time. And so, as far as mail-in voting, you're really opening up the door to voter fraud, and it's just not something that you want to mess with. And Trump kind of had his little deal with the post office, which we'll just touch on very little. Essentially, he was wanting to defund or take away funding from the post office because they wanted increased funding for all these mail-in ballots, and they're already incredibly inefficient. And so Trump said, you're not getting your funding until you do X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah, it was. I think what was it? The U.S. Postal Service. They use close to $20 billion a month,
Yeah.
and they were planning on spending that much up into 18 months. And so that's a lot of money, all right? And so Trump is very, he's smart with his money. So he doesn't want any of America's money to go to waste on something that's not necessary. And again, sure, Postal Service is definitely necessary, but I think what Trump's trying to get here is, like, we need to reduce how much funds we give to the U.S. Postal Service and try to figure out a way how we can make it cheaper, but to also regulate it, right? Again, like Christian said, there's so much opportunity for cheating to happen. Cheating happens in elections all the time. But it is this election, which is definitely probably the most important elections that we'll have. But it's just, you don't want anyone cheating more than they have to on this election, because there's going to be plenty of people that would love to cheat and do illegal things to alter any outcome of this election, including both sides. So who knows?
Yeah, just as far as that goes, just when you accept mail-in voting, there's just an increased potential for cheating. And, we want this election to be as fair as possible. We want it to represent the actual population, the actual electoral college. We don't want people's votes to be watered down. We want our responsibility as voters, we want that to count. And so why would you just allow for this to happen when you could, do it another way? And, people might say, oh, COVID's the reason, it's so bad, whatever your reason is. But, it's really hard to say that that's true when you have Nancy Pelosi going into a salon with no mask, and when all salons in California are supposed to be closed, and she goes in with no mask and then goes and blames the salon owner. If Nancy Pelosi can go to a salon, I can go and vote.
Yeah.
Even if it's social distance.
I mean, there's stores open all over the United States.
Yeah. Or
and
even
everyone's wearing a mask anyway, so just go wear a mask, go to a polling center, vote, you're done.
Yeah, or even if I just get my ballot mailed to me and I go and turn it in by hand. Even that is better than mailing it back.
Exactly.
But, do we have anything else?
Well, no, there's not too much more. But, again, all these things, we've talked about this in many of our previous episodes, but a lot of these things are common sense. You got to have that intellect to understand what's going on. And so if you're not understanding what's going on, I mean, I know there's plenty of people that they don't like politics anyway, right? They don't know much about politics, and they don't want to know about politics. And so I respect that, right? Because there's definitely a rabbit hole when it comes to politics. You should at least know a good amount of things of what's going on. You should know people's policies. You shouldn't just be voting blindly, right? And so I just feel like instead of voting on your personal opinion on some individual, right, focus on what they're trying to do for America, what they've done for America, and what they will continue to do for America if they are elected. I mean, let's just say if Biden gets elected, I mean, your guns will be taken away, police department will be defunded, right? More chaos will probably ensue. And, no one really knows that for sure, but the way that things are going, you can definitely say that that's a possibility of the future if Biden is elected. And so, again, it's not going to be any of his doing. It's going to be the people below him that are doing these things that have, while Biden definitely has a lot of power, he's not going to be doing anything. I mean, he can't talk. He can't read right off of a teleprompter. I mean, shoot, we just saw Nancy Pelosi have a ginormous gaffe.
Oh, yeah, that one was bad.
Oh, my gosh.
That was Biden level stuff right
I
there.
thought, oh, man, I think that could, that topped a few of Biden's gaffes.
Yeah, I think Biden still has a couple that are
Yeah,
maybe
Biden
two or
has a
three.
few really good ones. I'll give him that. Biden definitely has some good ones.
You know the thing.
But yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, it's just be smart. We've said this before, but like really try to understand. Like if you really do care about your own self and your well-being and America, you should vote for someone who loves America, who loves the military, who wants to help the police, who wants to help the people, who wants to make the economy healthy. You don't want someone that, constantly criticizes America. You don't want someone that constantly criticizes the law enforcement. You don't want someone that wants to take away your guns. I mean, it's your right to own a gun. I mean, they're violating the Constitution. They are in violation of the Constitution to take your guns away. Just know that.
Yeah. So, as we end, just something that I want you guys to think of as we leave is that when November comes and we start, and it comes time to vote, keep in mind not just what the politicians can do for you and what our candidates can do for you, not just how you feel about a certain candidate, but how it's going to affect the country and other people. And don't vote selfishly. Vote for what's actually going to bring the better good, what's going to bring change for the good of the country, for the good of the people. Do you really want to vote for somebody who really can't talk or think for himself? And then if you do and he doesn't make it through, do you really want to vote for someone who is a dirty cop, essentially, and is a liar, So keep that in mind. There's a lot of different things to consider. And so as we end here, I think you just really need to think hard about who you're going to vote for, why you're going to vote for it. Think about their policies, because policies are very important. Even if they're not the ones making the policies, the president's job is to enforce policies. And your bureaucracies does make policies. And so just keep that in mind as we close here.
Yeah, pray for this country that it, starts to go the right direction. This election could turn it around. It could make it a whole lot better. Just, pray for the president, because he's under a lot of pressure, and, he's done a great job, but a lot of people hate him. And, it's hard to work under that kind of pressure and do a good job when people hate you like that. Also, one last thing I forgot. He doesn't take any money from being president. He donates it all. He hasn't taken a penny off of his paycheck as being president. So just know that he's doing all these great things for free. So that just shows just a little bit of the kind of person that he is. Yeah, that's all I got, man.
Well, for everyone listening, thank you for listening. We hope you got something out of it. We hope that it really makes you consider who you're going to vote for in this coming election. Like we said earlier, please follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter. Listen wherever you get your local podcast. We're also putting up our videos on YouTube. And so if you would rather watch on video or watch on YouTube or listen on YouTube, do that. Again, thank you to our sponsors. We hope that you guys can all appreciate this new sound equipment. We know we do. We hope that it helps a lot. And so thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, go share this. Go share these episodes that we have to other people. Please, we don't want this to just stay in the general people that we know, or some people that have discovered us. We want us to grow as a podcast, and we want to be known for what we're doing here. And so, yeah, please share this. Follow us on Instagram. Go subscribe to us on YouTube. Help us out, because we really do appreciate it. I mean, we got all this nice sound equipment now because of you guys. So just, continue to support us, continue to share with other people. And so, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys later.